You're listening to the Visibility Advantage podcast, the show for senior leaders and business owners who want to build strategic presence in a world being reshaped by AI. I'm your host, Lynette Johnston, New Zealand's #1 LinkedIn expert, and I'm here to help you become as visible as you are valuable. Let's get started. I want to start this first episode by telling you something I've observed over nearly a decade of working with senior leaders, mainly in Australia and New Zealand, but across the world as well. The most experienced people in the room are often the least visible outside of it. I know, strange, isn't it? But I'm talking about leaders with 30 years of expertise, people who've built teams, turned businesses around, won industry awards, written books, led organizations through genuine complexity, people who their peers respect enormously. And yet, if you searched for them online, you'd find almost nothing. A LinkedIn profile that reads like a CV from 2015. No thought leadership content. No indication at all of the depth of what they know. I've been watching this pattern for years, and for a long time, the consequences were manageable. That's because word of mouth carried a lot of weight. Reputation traveled through relationships. But now something's shifted, and that's what this podcast is all about. Here's the thing about invisibility: it doesn't feel like a problem, at least not at first. When you're well established, when your network knows your name, when the phone's always rung, it's easy to assume it always will. But over the years, I've seen the same story play out in different ways for different leaders. There's the person who spent 30 years in corporate life and is suddenly, unexpectedly, looking for their next role and discovers that their LinkedIn profile hasn't been touched since they joined the platform. Their network is tiny, their online presence is almost non existent, and the recruiters who could help them simply can't find them. There's the person who has deep, genuine expertise in their field, who could be speaking at conferences, advising boards, building a consulting practice, but who has no visible body of work online, no thought leadership content, nothing that signals to the outside world what they actually know. And so, of course, the invitations go to someone else. There's the person who has left corporate life and is trying to build something of their own, a consulting practice, a portfolio career, a new advisory role, but who's discovering for the first time that without visibility, it is very hard to build trust with people who haven't met you. There's the person who's written a book, done the hard work, got it published, and is genuinely proud of it, and can't get traction on it because there's no platform to launch it from. And there's also the person who's technically excellent, deeply experienced, respected in every room they walk into, but who has no thought leadership presence to their name, so is not being recognized as the expert they already are. Different situations, same underlying problem. The world doesn't know they exist. I want to share 3 stories with you because the abstract problem is one thing, but the real impact is something else. The first is a national sales manager, upwards of 30 years of experience in his field, an impressive career by any measure. He'd won industry awards, he'd led large teams, he'd delivered results at the highest level. But when he found himself redundant, he had almost nothing to show for it online. His LinkedIn profile was very basic, no indication of the breadth of what he'd done. His network was small, and nothing about his online presence reflected his seniority, his expertise, or the kind of leader he was. But within a week of working together to build his executive visibility on LinkedIn, we're talking just 1 week here, he had been headhunted by a recruiter. Not because he'd suddenly become experienced, not because his skills had changed, but because now, when someone went looking, they could actually find him. And what they found reflected the leader he already was. The second story is a senior executive at a project management company. She had a mid level presence, but nothing that signaled her real depth of knowledge. We worked together on a LinkedIn article, one piece of long form content that genuinely demonstrated her expertise in her field. Articles on LinkedIn are often unfairly dismissed as being low reach, but in fact, they have multiple benefits, not least of which is that they're indexed by Google and are therefore found in searches, as well as being discovered and surfaced by AI. Our project manager's article wasn't low reach. It was discovered by the right people, and she was subsequently offered a speaking slot at a major industry conference. Her first, but I'm willing to bet, not her last. We were talking here of one piece of content, one clear demonstration of what she knew, which cemented her seniority in her industry in a way that years of simply doing excellent work had not. The third story is a CEO of a community organisation, a man with clear leadership skills, a strong track record, and a plan to move to the United States. He wanted a role commensurate with his abilities and experience in New Zealand, but he was moving to a country where nobody knew him. By optimizing his LinkedIn profile before his move, which clearly positioned what he'd done and what he could bring, he was offered a role shortly after arriving in the US. His LinkedIn presence crossed the ocean before he did. It did the introduction for him. That's three different people, three different situations, and in every case, the thing that changed wasn't their experience, it was their visibility. Now I want to talk about something that has changed the stakes considerably and that senior leaders in particular are underestimating. The way professionals are discovered has changed. For most of the leaders I work with, professional opportunity has historically come through relationships, word of mouth, a trusted introduction, someone in a network recommending a name. That still matters, but it no longer goes far enough. And here's why. When someone today is looking for an expert in your field, a board chair researching candidates, a conference organizer finding speakers, or a potential client deciding who to call, they don't just ask around, they search. And increasingly, those searches are being mediated by AI. AI tools, the same tools that are now embedded in LinkedIn, in search engines, in the way people find and evaluate professionals, are indexing your online presence. And they're making judgments about your expertise based on what they find. If there's nothing there to find, you don't exist. Not because you're not qualified, but because there's no signal for AI to surface. The question I now ask every leader I work with is this. If someone asked an AI tool to recommend experts in your field right now, would your name come up? For most senior leaders, the honest answer is no. And that's a problem that is only going to get worse. This isn't about becoming a content creator. It's not about posting every day or building an audience or becoming someone you're not. It's about having enough of a presence, clear, credible, consistent, that when someone goes looking, they can find you, understand what you do, and trust what they find. That's the shift. And that's what this podcast is here to help you make. So, what is this show and what will you actually get from it? The Visibility Advantage podcast is a fortnightly show. Some episodes will be solo, just me, unpacking one concept with real depth, the way I do with a client. Others will be conversations with executives and business owners who have built strategic visibility and are willing to tell you honestly what it took. What you won't find here is generic LinkedIn tips that were written for someone 20 years younger and a completely different professional situation. Hustle culture advice that has nothing to do with how senior professionals actually work will not be heard here. What you will find are honest frameworks, real stories, and practical thinking, grounded in a decade of working with leaders who are a lot like you. The system I use with every client is something I call the Linkability Blueprint. It's a strategic model built around four foundations: discovery, perception, connection, and momentum. Together, they explain how LinkedIn actually works in the AI era and what it takes to build the kind of presence that opens doors. Let me walk you through each one because I think even just understanding the model will change how you see what's possible. The first foundation is discovery. This is how LinkedIn and AI actually find you. Most leaders assume visibility comes from posting. It doesn't. Discovery is driven by semantic signals. How clearly your profile communicates your expertise, which topics you're consistently associated with, how your network connects you to the people you want to reach. When your discovery foundation is strong, the right people find you, even when you're not actively doing anything. When it's weak, you're invisible to searchers you should be surfacing in. The second foundation is perception. This is what people and AI understand about you in the first few seconds. Your headline, your profile narrative, the immediate story your presence tells. Perception determines whether someone trusts you instantly, whether your expertise is obvious, whether AI can correctly categorize and recommend you. I work with leaders who are extraordinary at what they do, but whose LinkedIn profiles communicate almost nothing about it. Fixing perception doesn't require you to reinvent yourself, it requires you to be legible. The third foundation is connection, and this one surprises most people. LinkedIn is not primarily a content platform, it's a relationship engine. The opportunities that matter, the board roles, the speaking invitations, the client referrals, they come from trust, not from follow accounts. Connection is built through what I call micro interactions: the thoughtful comment, the direct message that opens a conversation, the consistent presence in your professional community that means people know, like, trust, and remember you when an opportunity arises. The fourth foundation is momentum. This is the compounding effect that most leaders never build because they treat LinkedIn as a one off exercise rather than a long term presence. Momentum is what happens when you show up consistently over time, when AI learns your expertise, when your audience grows organically, when your reputation starts to do work when you aren't actually doing anything. It's not about posting every day. It's about showing up in ways that reinforce what you stand for until your presence becomes self reinforcing. Discovery, perception, connection, momentum. When you understand these four foundations, you stop seeing LinkedIn as a posting platform and start seeing it for what it actually is: a discoverability engine, a clarity engine, a relationship engine, and a momentum engine. That reframe alone changes everything. And it's what we'll be working through across upcoming episodes. In fact, next time, we'll be looking deeper into discovery, because if you can't be discovered, you'll be invisible. And remember, I want you to be as visible as you are valuable. That's it for this episode of the Visibility Advantage podcast. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love it if you shared it with a colleague. If you're ready to understand exactly where your own visibility stands, our Linkability Blueprint is a great first step. You'll find the details in the show notes. And if you haven't already, hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening so you don't miss the next episode. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.